Hi everybody, welcome to our 29th free webinar. Hope all of you are doing well and staying safe. I'm Sandeep Ghosh. Today we have a very pertinent and important topic, leadership during a pandemic. In fact, the last few months we have been dealing with this issue all across. And again, we are seeing a surge in the pandemic scenario across the globe, and people are again planning to deal with it. Under the circumstances, we thought it appropriate to have a discuss on the leadership issues, what an entrepreneur, a leader can look forward to, or way he or she should act in the time of crisis. With me today, I have two able gentlemen with me, Mr. Satyavrat Dattagupta and Mr. Ravinder Goel. Mr. Satyavrat Dattagupta, he's a senior consultant and a mentor with the industry, and he's based out of Pune. He's a rare blend of a professional I have seen who is hands-on with his consulting, even if it means to go to the grassroots level to implement a business strategy for any company. It is very rare to see among senior consultants do that. In his last 30 years of career, he has headed various organizations as a CEO and headed B schools as a dean. At present, he is associated with Live to Win, a management consulting firm, as a chief mentor and strategy consultant. He has guided and directed more than 3,000 students as successful professionals in their careers. He is a professional and has done his master's in business administration, has hands-on experience across sectors like consumer durable, entertainment, publication, water treatment, automotive, education, etc. And at present, he is guiding and mentoring few corporates out of Pune. We have Mr. Ravinder Goel, as you are familiar. He joins us in most of the webinars on this forum. Mr. Goel, welcome you once more.
Thank you. Hello.
Mr. Goel is a tech entrepreneur, a veteran in vocational skilling with 27 years plus of experience. Mr. Goel also evolved smart learning training methodology, which was well appreciated and brought most coveted National Golden Peacock Innovative Product Services Award in 2002. He has also authored more than 1,000 courses on personal development, success, growth, leadership, etc. Last couple of years, he has been mentoring and ably guiding few technology startups. In fact, he is anchoring, I should say, 3 critical startups directly, in which he is involved day in, day out. Now, leadership during a pandemic or a crisis has been discussed and has been understood in the right context because of the unprecedented scenario we are facing across the world for the last 13 to 14 months. This is true not only for business houses, big or small, but equally true for all kind of establishments, institutions. Some days, some of us over here as consultants, we have been sitting non-stop over web meetings, deep into the nights with entrepreneurs and CEOs, working on plans and communications, constant restructuring and setting up of new plans, and communication which has to be drafted and communicated to consumers, team members across the company. So in fact, frankly, entrepreneurs and CEOs have been working round the clock. We have seen and assisted leaders who have been trying hard and effectively holding on during the last 12 months to be in touch with members of the teams, their customers, their suppliers. And without doubt, there has been a lot of new learnings during this period. Each leader faced a unique scenario. It may not be common for everybody, be it in manufacturing, IT sectors, hospitality, logistic, medical services, retailing, and startups. We saw some of them gave up and winded up, but others stood strong, reinvented, and not only are doing well, but are now getting ready to face the new onslaught with a lot of strengths. Today, we would like to focus our discussions, though the topic is very wide, on the leadership parameters during crisis. To start up with, let's go straight onto it, and I would request Satyabrata to take on the first uh, query which I have. What constitutes a good leadership in a time of crisis? Welcome, Satyabrata, to the forum, and I would request you to address this question from your perspective. Please.
Thank you so much, Sandeep, and good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be on this platform discussing a very important topic, that is leadership during the pandemics. Now, when we talk of leadership, the basic leadership traits and qualities remains same. They do not change. But the situation changes when we see a crisis coming up in the form of this pandemic COVID-19, right? Now, when we talk of the most relevant, effective leadership styles that is expected during such crisis is, like basically the leader needs to be extremely emotionally strong to first accept the fact that there is a crisis.
Right.
There is a crisis. Okay. So the basic qualities, traits, or the behavior pattern that we should expect or we expect from a leader during this crisis or pandemic is a very effective and honest communication from the leader during this particular crisis period. Like in a crisis situation such as this pandemic, misinformation and miscommunications are a recipe for disaster.
Right.
Especially because it is time when people look to their leaders to provide a sense of calm and stability. So one aspect is effective and honest communication.
Right.
Like when we talk about this particular aspect, like I have gone through various articles and stories and cases of recent fantastic leadership styles by leaders across the world. But what has really appealed to me is the story of the Prime Minister of New Zealand. Right?
Okay.
Like the way she communicated the entire thing mattered a lot. That compassionate was there, that honesty was there.
Right.
Right? And it really appealed to the general citizens of the New Zealand. They were convinced that there is going to be an escalation in future, and this effective communication, honest communication, made people prepared for the worst, made them mentally prepared to collaborate and work together towards a solution. And that's it. That is the outcome of the honest and effective communication from a leader during such kind of crisis and pandemic.
Right.
Now,
right.
if we come to the second aspect that we expect from a good leader to have effective outcome during this crisis and pandemic is the ability to act, adaptability and agility that we say. Now, when we talk of adaptability and agility, leaders need to exhibit the willingness to adapt to a crisis and work the problem. Good leaders should be willing to look at a problem from a different perspective.
True.
From a different perspective and be able to think of agile solutions that can make the best of a bad situation. For example, if we talk of businesses that adapted to stringent social distancing norms during the lockdowns by going online and creating a strong digital backend are the ones that are now thriving.
Very true.
Right?
Very true.
You agree to this, Sandeep?
Yes, no doubt.
And then the next quality that we, sorry, come again?
Perfectly right. You're right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And if anybody has any doubts, you can stop me and we can always clarify on the point that we are discussing. Then the next aspect and the quality that we look at a good leader during this crisis situation is their ability to manage risk.
Very important.
No modern day CEO can afford to be ignorant of risk management. Being risk aware and introducing strong risk management processes in one's organization can ensure that a company and its employees are prepared to weather adverse events such as a pandemic, a cyber attack perhaps, or any natural disaster, and much more.
Very true. Very true, because this has created a model in itself for people and leaders to get ready for what you rightly mentioned, for any kind of scenarios, crisis scenarios. And I think it's a lot of learning for everybody.
Correct. And another important traits, aspects, quality that I think is extremely important, Sandeep, and particularly though this is a very inherent trait quality of a good leader, but I think this particular quality becomes so important during this particular situation. This particular situation, that is pandemic or crisis that we may call, and that is empathetic.
Wow, that's important. Very important.
Empathetic. We need to really put ourselves into the shoes of our stakeholders. And this is very because there is too much of stress in the mind of people. There's a stress of losing job. There's a stress of salary cut down. There is a stress of bad health. Yes, this is a situation where the leader has to really show empathy towards.
You're right. You pointed out very relevant 3 or 4 points which are very, very important, and we face the same while anchoring and working closely with CEOs and entrepreneurs. At this juncture, I would like to just switch on to Mr. Goyal. Mr. Goyal, if I may request you, because you wear 2 hats. You wear once a hat of an entrepreneur, and the other time you also wear a hat of a mentor. So, wearing the hat of an entrepreneur, as Satyabrata has been mentioning, very, very important, relevant points. What has been your experiences and what you would like to share with young entrepreneurs and CEOs as a crisis leader? What is needed?
Thank you, Sandeep, and I welcome everyone on this Resolve the Unsolved forum. As Sandeep said, it is our 29th webinar going on, and it has been a long journey, and hope that despite COVID or no COVID, we'll be able to continue this saga and making it useful for the coming buddy entrepreneurs as well as the business community, and whatever way we will be able to contribute, we'll keep contributing it. Now, as Satyavrata said, you see the leadership traits or the kind of problems we are facing or the kind of challenges coming in. The first foremost thing I remember is a statement of John Cotters. He said, leadership has the ability to drive useful change. Now, here he used two words, useful and the change. Now, part is that most of the leadership are like what you call a mark on the stone. The leadership traits become engraved in a stone, and those are not being changed or reviewed. So we need to look at when we talk about the leadership qualities or the leadership behavior. First thing, a person has to first define himself. He has to resolve the internal conflict within. When, like today, if I'm not sure what I should do, how can I lead my team? That's the foremost thing I think. The leadership behavior one must adapt is to change himself, to accept what Satyavrata also said, to accept and find out solutions around it. Now, if we say the acceptance, there are a couple of things in the acceptance part, like economic downturn is there, existing work models may be working, may not be working, behavior and mindset which was working during the peak probably may not work in the crisis time. So we need to first accept, yes, there are issues and there is a crisis, and whatever was working may not work with the same line and length now. And then you have to create positivity in the system. So that's what I pick up that quote of useful change. So from X to Y, you have to really drive it in such a way that people still continue their operations, people retain their customers, the workforce or the leadership or your enterprise should work towards retaining customers and clients, and should have a plan of action to recover from the crisis. Now, one has to have the ability to see, predict the future, how things are going to go in times to come. Like today, in fact, we were having very few cases of COVID, and now it is about to reach the peak, highest ever in last 1.5 year. So now one has to see, predict. So we have to become not the astrologers, but we must be able to see through that. Yes, our systems, our people, our revenue models, our expenditures, everything, how it will take shape in next 3 months or 6 months or 9 months. So the leadership, once it resolves their own issues, probably then whatever Satyavrata has said, that communicating, empathy, and everything will fall in line automatically. Because once I am clear what I am going to speak about and how I am going to act on, so probably my communication and my dealing with the people and the clients, everything will become in a correct way.
So true. So true. Very true. See, in fact, what both Mr. Goyal you pointed out and Satyabrata also pointed out, starting from acknowledging that there's a crisis, to be empathetic, to understand, and also for the first time, people also realized that it is nothing which is written down as such to follow a particular principle or a line of leadership, but they had to innovate also. They had to find ways also. Now, building on this, I would like to come to a very, very critical question. And in the same sequence, I will request Satyabrata to take this question on. And then I'll come to Mr. Goyal once again. Leading from this, I come to a very pertinent question. How do we lead a team through a crisis? Satya, if you can,
Okay.
like on to it. How do we lead a team through crisis? So crisis is pandemic today. It can be anything tomorrow.
Yes. See, how to lead a team during crisis. Like again, I would say that taking from what Mr. Goyal just discussed, like when we talk of leadership, when we talk of strategy, we talk of something which has been planned for the future, right? A solid statement has been prepared, right?
Yes.
Which is related to the vision and mission of your organization, perhaps, right? But all of a sudden, we see that this pandemic drops in from nowhere, right? Then all your plans, all your strategy, your activity plan, everything goes haywire. So now, accepting the crisis, you have to now replan what Mr. Goel said. You have to replan everything and make your organization prepared to accept the change that is inevitable. Correct. So during this particular time, when we are looking for a change, it is very, very inevitable that we need to lead or navigate our team in a different manner, right? So what I would suggest is, like looking at the current pandemic, looking at the current priority that we have set.
Yes.
Like when we have redesigned something, and when we have prioritized something as per the rescheduled plan, we take into consideration various stakeholders' safety and success,
right,
much more than
right.
our own organization and company. Are you getting my point? So when
Yes.
we talk of stakeholders, we are talking of our people, we are talking of our business partners, we are talking of our customers, and we are talking of the community on the whole, right? So this entire thing requires a new plan through a new team, perhaps. New team, perhaps. What I would suggest is, like leading a team during this pandemic is extremely challenging and difficult, because you have to entrust your people by delegating new tasks which perhaps they were not exposed to earlier. That is the challenge of a new, or that is the challenge of a leader during this pandemic, right? So, okay, Sandeep.
I hear you say.
Okay.
Yeah, I hear you say.
Yeah.
You need to involve your staff very much into the planning exercise along with you. Am I right?
That is absolutely there from day one, whether situation is normal or not normal.
Okay.
That planning aspect is always there. But when I am saying that during this pandemic, how a leader is expected to lead a team, he is expected to lead a team by entrusting their people and by delegating tasks to them, right? And when we are talking of entrusting and delegating tasks, it may so happen that these people may not have been exposed earlier to doing a particular task, right? But it is your firm belief. It is your firm belief on person XYZ. Sandeep, I know Sandeep, you can do this. It is expected from you to do this. If you can entrust this and then give some kind of guidance, support, these people will come out with flying colors. So this is an opportunity given to the leader to step up the performance of the people, to step up the motivation of the people, to step up the skill that is hidden perhaps within their people. Of course, the daily routine task has to be done. But here we are talking of an objective where so many stakeholders are involved, and their safety, their success needs to be protected through extremely good leadership and a good leading of the team.
Right.
So that is what delegation and trust.
Right. Great. So delegation and trust is very crucial, as you pointed out. Picking on delegation and trust, let me request Mr. Goel to come in at the stage. Mr. Goel, along with answering the area, how do we lead the team through a crisis? I will also mix and merge a query which Mr. Banerjee has already raised on the chat. Micro enterprise, where there is management, is the owner himself. So for us, he's the leader, and there are few employees. Owner himself is confused and sometimes in a negative mind. In this period, how to help this organization, which I think we have faced many a number of times, and some of them we have anchored. So while you answer, you can also answer this query raised by Mr. Banerjee. Please, Mr. Banerjee.
You see, first of all, we must accept that most of the managers, or like the Indian context I'm talking about, not the global,
Sure.
born to handle crisis. Our activities or performance or probably the mind, everything starts working in multiple and it gets multiplied when we declare that yes, there is a crisis. The biggest problem I've faced or seen with the people, they keep the crisis within themselves.
Okay.
People are basically, they do not come to know that there is a crisis going on and they do not become a part of it. Like if you have seen accident sites, if there is an accident, the train, even if it is in jungle or if it is in a different area, you will see villagers from nearby areas, they will come themselves and will help the entire rescue team.
So true. So true.
And hundreds of people will come. The part is that we have to announce it that there is a crisis. One. And if we keep it to ourselves, the people will not be involved. As Satya said, that involvement of the team should happen. Now, I think we were talking about a company somewhere in South. X, they included their team and the same setup with the same number of people without terminating a single employee. They have grown multiple with a different product. They diversified with the help of the people, their own people. But what is that they expose themselves that yes, there is a crisis and we have something with us, what we do not have, what we can do, what we cannot do. And then there was a solution. So this is how things have to be looked at. Now what Sanjeev has asked, the entrepreneur, the biggest problem is that he's fighting himself alone exclusive. Now, even if he has, let's say, two people and he's 1+2 team, so we need to take it in a way that yes, there is a team of three and they only together will survive or they will probably will die. So if this is the case, now it's something like you are talking about a case scenario, we can relate it to like a team of three doctors who are operating on a patient and they say that if we cut out his one leg, probably he can be saved. And sometimes like if one kidney is failed, so probably they take out one kidney, at least person can live without one kidney. Entrepreneurs always refrain from doing surgeries on their businesses. They just want everything to continue and they do not allow anybody to even discuss the surgeries that, okay, boss, now you cannot live with out of 10 operations, you have to cut out 3, 4, 5. Just to survive, you continue with 2, and later on, probably you can start with some more operations, add on new operations, diversify. So that I've seen people, they are not running the business with the rational behavior. Most of the time, 90% of the time, we are running the business with the emotional behavior where we do not see things as they should be. So the practical approach is always missing.
Got the point. So, in fact, what we have been talking, one is accepting that there is a crisis. Two, as Satyabrata brought in, and Mr. Govind, you also re-emphasized on that. Share it with your team, pass on the responsibilities to your team member, and enable them to also act. Now, this is so critical, and we have seen this happening company after company in the last 8 or 9 months once the crisis came up. Obviously, we can't name companies. We have been involved with small and large companies, and we have been also critically involved in critical decision-making process. So they are personal to the companies. Obviously, later on, we'll take them up as a cases. Now, coming to a very, very pertinent question as we talked about the leadership, managing crisis. Coming to Satyabrata, how COVID-19 is COVID-19 redefining leadership narrative? Is it that we are redefining leadership narrative once this pandemic has hit us? What is your thought to it?
This is, I think this is the most relevant and important question of our discussion. If I have to say, redefining, right? Yes, a big yes. That pandemic has or any crisis, they do redefine the leadership. Like as I told you a while ago, if we talk of today, we are talking of a new normal, right?
Yes.
We are talking of a new normal. But again, like Sandeep, typical quality of a leader is that he should not wait for the situation to be clearer, right?
Absolutely.
He has to take action, decision during uncertainty, right? Otherwise, it is very, very easy for a general person to wait for things to be clearer and then take decision. Everything gets delayed. The casualties that happens cannot be compensated for this delay, right? So for this particular very reason, I totally agree that the leadership during pandemic is really redefined, because as I said earlier, if we talk of demand and supply, it is highly disrupted.
Yes.
Correct. So when demand and supply is highly disrupted, I'm talking in context to a business scenario, right?
True.
Talking leadership in context to a business scenario, not political, not religious. Okay.
Fine.
Right. So when we talk of this disruption, it is inevitable. A while ago, we discussed on this, that it is time now to work on a new business model.
Okay.
Right? A new business model is required. Now, when we talk of a new business model, we work on new policies. We adopt new normals. Like as I said earlier, that we have gone online, we have accepted various changes. We have upgraded our technology. We have embraced the application of technology in our process, which was not earlier, right? And all those adaptations, applications, which we have done now, we have adopted it, keeping in mind that when things normalizes, these things will continue.
Okay.
Right? These things will continue. Now, when we talk of these changes, these new adaptations, new application, new bringing of technologies, we are talking of redefining the entire leadership during this particular crisis. It is the crisis which has forced the leadership to look at things with a different perspective.
So true.
So yes, that crisis and pandemic really redefines the leadership styles.
So great. So it's redefining, and in fact, we have seen it. Before I come to Mr. Goel, I'll just taking on from what Satya you shared. I face certain scenarios in service sector where CEOs and entrepreneurs were suddenly surprised. They said, Sandeep, we need to submit a disaster recovery plan to our clients in Europe. Now, what do we do with the disaster recovery plan in the service sector? As you rightly pointed out, it is redefining leadership because this person or the entrepreneur never thought that I have to have a disaster recovery plan. And working, in fact, 28 hours and 24 hours overnight, while the world was still worrying about COVID, we worked, recreated a structure, and were able to meet deadlines. So you're so true. There's so many things which are coming out during the 13, 14 months, which leaders took it for granted. With this, Mr. Goyal, I'd like to bring you in. How do you see this redefinition of leadership post? I won't say post because we are still facing the onslaught of COVID 19. So, as we hopefully will beat it very soon, how does the leadership parameters get redefined? Mr. Goyal, please. You are muted. If you can unmute yourself, Mr. Goyal, you have to unmute. Yes.
Always after my talk, I just put myself on mute.
Right.
You see, as Satya said, that you see, this COVID scenario has come out in such a way that nobody predicted. I probably, please don't, sorry to astrologers, I think people must have made kundalis and came out with the dates of marriages, programs.
Sure.
But nobody could see the COVID coming. Nobody. So expecting anyone and to blame anyone that they could not manage, that will be truly false and truly ingenuine for the person. Because such kind of scenarios we have not seen in our entire life. Probably
Never.
the generation of 1980 Spanish flu is already gone. Maybe
Yes.
at all somebody must be there, very, very few. May not be in 3 digit even. So, but the part is that what continuing what Satya said is that waiting to act until the storm hit definitely is a mistake. But here the storm was not expected and predicted as well. So nobody was prepared. So the leadership, if we say the redefining leadership qualities, if we talk about, I feel the response behavior or the mechanism a company or the leader has set, where probably an immediate response and a panic response. I probably was thinking when you shared this topic, uh,
Yes.
most of the failures are happening because of panic response, not an immediate response. One. Second, the response to the current situation, not preparing along with the future. In such kind of a crisis time, you do not expect to evolve yourself for next 10 years. Now, the time COVID era probably is to remain live or survive. Survival of the fittest is a old quote. Old.
Hmm.
So I look at it as that one, we must not do panic response. Second, we must act now rather than planning it for future. Two, three, we have to work for now, not later. Any decision or any plan which we had for 2 years, 5 years, or 10 years plan, as Satya said earlier. So we need to look at those plans and those papers and the project files. Everything has to be put on the rack. And our first foremost target is to survive out of this period. Now, have you ever observed that when people are admitted in the hospital, their recovery is very fast?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, have you noticed? I mean, at home they are not recovered fast, but in the hospital they recover very fast.
Yes. Yes.
What happens when we are admitted to hospital? One is that you are put on a strict diet. You are not allowed to eat at a different time. You are given food on a particular time. Morning 6 o'clock you start your day, and 7 o'clock your last food is come, and you are over. Then your medicines quantity goes up. If you are eating 500 gram milligram tablet thrice a day, you'll be getting injection probably of 1000 or 2000 mg once in a, like thrice in a day. So your doses multiplies, your food, your resting period increases because you are not allowed to move here and there. At home, you don't do rest properly. So same way, when you are in crisis, you must think in the. I think some of the previous webinars also I quoted this example. The crisis means you have to accept that yes, it is not manageable. So one, you have to put yourself into hospital. Two, you go to a hospital where there is no doctor. So most of the entrepreneurship or business people, they are getting admitted, they are accepting they are ill, but they don't have any doctors. So I'll definitely say this thing that you get admitted to a hospital with good doctors. So
True.
probably people like us, you, Satya, and many other people who are associated with us, they come in picture. So you need a doctor. You need to accept that you need hospitalization. So this is what I think with the how you have to redefine in the period of crisis.
No, you have wonderfully put it with picturizing a hospital. I totally agree with you. Take professional help to be very, very specific. And as Satya also pointed out, it's redefining. See, what we
Sandeep, I want to bring another point. Like
please.
taking cue from Mr. Goel.
Yes.
Like when we this particular crisis situation, particularly if I talk of this pandemic, like where people had no experience of such kind of crisis earlier. There is no past historical data to work upon or to rely upon, right? So during this, like a strong, effective leader is expected to accept the fact that there is a problem and I have no answer to this particular problem. And this has happened this time. And when such kind of transparency comes from a leader, it invites collaboration.
Great.
It invites collaboration. So during this particular pandemic, the nature of collaboration has changed, because the because we have similar problems and challenges.
Yes.
The challenges and problems is similar for everybody. So everybody has joined in, collaborated, which was not the nature earlier.
So true. So true.
So here you are collaborating with vendors, you are collaborating with customers, you are collaborating with transporters, you are collaborating with government, to come to a collective solution which is sought after by everybody in that ecosystem. And this is how the leadership is redefined again.
No, you put it aptly. This crisis made a leader open up, look for solutions, collaborate with all stakeholders. Very important. Connecting with, taking professional help, that is going to the hospital, remaining on strict diet to get well, to recovering. It was great. Like as we've been discussing, in fact, we experienced the same and we lived through certain scenarios with certain entrepreneurs and CEOs in the last 8 or 9 months as we have been working with them. As we have covered most of the points, before we go to the next, anybody who has any queries, any questions, can put it on the chat, or you can unmute yourself and speak up. I'm sure Professor Pankaj, you'd like to have put in something. Mr. Narwala, if you have any queries, feel free to put it up. Anybody over there? Sanjeev, we have tried to answer. Sanjeev is saying, yes, very right. Collaboration is very, very important because Sanjeev has been experiencing that. For others who are not familiar with Sanjeev, Sanjeev is a treasury expert and he is working day in and day out, Satya, with companies trying to help them financially handle this situation, which is there. I agree with you, Sanjeev. Now, Pankaj, you have any questions? I can see you have unmuted.
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to know that we do talk in this type of scenario. Means my understanding is that we should go beyond what we call transactional leadership, as you were saying, when we talk about collaboration, is to make a transformational leadership style. That means, can we bring about a real change in the way our team members think or they respond to this crisis?
Great, Professor Pankaj, thank you. Satya, Professor Pankaj is a senior faculty member with Birla Institute of Management Technology.
Yes, these kind of crises and pandemic situations perhaps rewards an organization in unearthing or identifying the hidden talents, right? When we talk of transformational leadership, we put on a lot of conscious effort from the leader to bring in some kind of transformation, in,
Right.
in the team and the people, right? But as I said earlier, this kind of crisis situations doesn't allow us to plan our action in advance. A bomb suddenly comes from the up and we have to accept it. And during this, we create a team. We create a team based on the list of priorities that we have prepared to achieve in short-term period immediately. We are not thinking of what is going to happen 6 months down the line. We are perhaps thinking of what is going to happen 1 week down the line or 1 month down the line. So looking at this particular urgency, we try to identify people and create a team to work on those short-term objectives, right? And perhaps we do not know who is really capable of delivering the goods or not, but constantly as a leader, I have to give my guidance, my inputs to that identified created team, and this is the time which gives us the opportunity to transform our people in leaders.
True. So, in fact, Pankaj, as you put it, there is transformation happening, and there is a small phase of time which Satya mentioned, in which I have to recover also. So priorities are different, and transformation happens. Mr. Goyal, you wanted to point out some things. Please.
The discussion and the input from Pankaj and Satya reminded me a case that you see what happens in the large organizations or maybe the smaller ones. We try to have lions, but most of the lions are like the circus lions. They are being tamed. Despite you have the trainer, the live meat, they try to beg for the dead meat.
Okay.
That's what the transformation we have done over a period of time. We have basically not only tamed them, we have actually captured their thinking mindset. So part is that first, like this COVID has given me an input. We need to evolve people from the day one. I mean, they must become lateral thinkers. They should not, like you have seen that there is a popular quote: "You tie elephant with a small chain, just because that he's been tied with the same chain since childhood, and he does not break the chain where he could have taken the entire setup, but still it does not break the chain." So the transformation has to happen right from the day one the employee is been taken into. After 1 year or 2 year, whatever you do, like organizations have spent so much of money on training and behavioral changes, but hardly you see any result. People say that okay, I'm getting what it is in for me. So we probably have to evolve a culture where the lions we hire, though they should understand that they are for hunting, and they should act like that only. They should not behave like a circus lion who is going to come, perform, speak, and go. So that's probably I'm just adding up from my side where I see that we must bring this change after COVID, that everybody should become a hunter.
I liked your example, Mr. Goyal, with the lion. So you have put it absolutely right. The lions have been tamed, and the elephants have been tamed. So they should be hunters, and that can add a lot of value to it. Wonderful. It was a great discussion as such. Anybody has any queries or any suggestions, feel free to unmute and join in. Now see, actually in the last, I would not say 1 hour, but 45 minutes or 50 minutes which we got to interact and come out, we covered very important points and important parameters from the leadership and the entrepreneur's perspective. One is, we agreed that we have to acknowledge that there is a crisis. Two, we should not keep it to ourselves. We should involve everybody in the team, share it, involve all stakeholders, and obviously, as Mr. Goel put in and ended it in a nice way, should have recognized and let the lions free from day one, would have given more biting opportunities at this time of crisis. And not to say that, like, be empathetic to the team, to share, understand, take tough decisions, reach out to a professional. There is no ego in asking for help and suggestions and how to steer this point of crisis. And we all have traveled through that. Not that we have been all sitting at home. I agree. Satya, Sanjeev, Pankaj, others who have joined us on various webinars as consultants, as entrepreneurs, have been experiencing it and have been working on full time. Like see, today, all of us are sitting at different locations. Satya, you are from Pune right now. We are interacting. There's no restriction. We are able to debate. We are able to agree, disagree, have a very, very healthy discussions, and businesses can interact. In most cases, we need not travel also. A lot of innovative ways have come across. It was great. Any important parameters, if Mr. Goel, Satya, you want to add on before we close this session, please feel free at this stage. Satya, anything which you want to add on? Satya, brother?
Yeah. In fact, we have been discussing on whether leadership is redefined or the ideal leadership traits, aspects that is expected during this crisis.
Right.
But again, like what I would also like to highlight is a great leader should have all his senses very much open and receptive to the opportunities that are there during this crisis period, and make a best make a best business proposition out of these opportunities. And there are various instances where extremely good leadership has been able to redefine the entire business objectives of their organization. Right now, Sandeep, if I have to give you an example of myself, and I think it would be a very, very relevant example, and this is to all my dear audiences and Mr. Goel also. Perhaps like a year back, I was employed with Lovely Professional University as the director of management consulting and CR projects. Like when this particular pandemic started, like obviously that sense of insecurity was cropping up in me too, as it was with everybody.
Right.
But again, I took the decision of venturing into online education.
Right.
Online education. Sandeep, trust me, at that point of time, I understood that this particular crisis, is going to be there for a prolonged period of time. What is going to happen with organizations, with those learning community which have been looking at learning and training opportunities. What is going to happen to them?
Yes.
Learning, training will not stop. It has to continue. And the answer to this particular problem is the virtual medium.
You're true.
And this particular opportunity forced me to form an organization which is Live to Win, which got into the business activity of giving only live online trainings. And trust me, Sandeep, now I have my clients joining me from UAE, from Bangladesh, from Sri Lanka, from Nepal and India. Isn't that an opportunity? Which is the gift of this pandemic situation. So on one hand we cry, we crib, but there are a lot of reasons to enjoy, to appreciate the benefits.
No, say, in fact, I would, you're so true to it. And not only that, I'm bringing up very important parameter. During this COVID, it was Mr. Goel who mentioned, Sandeep, let's get together and start a e-business consulting scenario, on which, on this forum, we are on the 29th webinar. And we have been consistently interacting with entrepreneurs and leaders consistently, and there are a lot of innovations, a lot of areas which are happening. We have built a lot of collaborations. We have built a strong network. And in fact, it's important to share that all of us, I'm happy to say, we have been working day in, day out. There's so much happening across the globe, which is true. It was great. It was good to have you, and thanks for your time, Satyavata. At a short notice, you agreed and joined us. It was great to have your views and points. Mr. Goel, it was always nice to have you. Anything which you would like to state?
Yeah, but probably I'll just end up with a small live experience.
Yes. No lions, right?
Hmm?
No more lions.
No more lions. You see, recently, like you know, that we have launched online academy, and our the customer segment we have defined is the existing colleges and universities. So what happens, like the universities and colleges have their own limitations in delivering the classroom education, like Satya is seen with the lovely professional university. I mean, there is a limitation. The interest of the student, the number of hours you can keep them engaged. Now, in last 1 year, where the classroom education is not happening and most of the things are going online, uh, many of the colleges are failed to cope up with this scenario. Now,
Yes.
there are colleges like who are talking positive with us, where they are finding it an opportunity that for their existing student, they give them extra certificate value and the learning through us. I mean, they don't have the infrastructure. So that's what Satya said, the collaborative approach has to come in, and the receptiveness of new ideas, new innovations has to be a part of the culture now. I mean, you really cannot my thing and I'll continue as it is without any change, and I'll not allow anybody to come in between. Probably if you remember, there was a movie, Mohabbatein. So you have to keep the wind coming in.
Yes.
Close your windows to protect your culture and your brand and your egos. So you have to open up the windows, and I must share through this platform that let you be open for the new ideas, let you open your business to gain new momentum and new ideas, new innovations, and let people come and teach you that yes, something else can happen with the way you are going on. So let you be open. If it works, fine. If it doesn't work, fine. But don't stop yourself from the wind which is trying to come in and knock your door and make you to reach somewhere else.
Well said.
Very true. Very true. No, it was good, exciting, and enriching. In fact, before getting on to this, preparing for this session, we were having a discussion, and we decided to have an open discussion on this subject. Great. So it's already 4:12. We should close it, call it a day. Thank you, Satyabrata, for your time. And we look forward to more sessions and associations with you. Thank you, Mr. Goel. Thanks, everybody who were with us today. Thanks, Mr. Narula, for your motivating comment. Mr. Narula says that the leadership session is outstanding. You helped to create a real buzz scenario.
Mr. Narula is an advocate by profession, one, and second, he is assistant governor of our zone in Rotary District 3011. I welcome you, Narula sir.
नमस्कार जी, नमस्कार, कैसे हैं?
Namaskar. Welcome. Want to say something, Mr. Narula?
No, it's a good. You have given a good talk on the leadership and during pandemic period. You all have stated a well.
No.
You continue with your this thing so that we understand what market scenario is altogether nowadays.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Welcome. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Pankaj. Thanks, Sanjeev. Thanks, Risha. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. See you next week.